Thank you, Helen. Thank you, Morning Star. And I do want to thank the Morning Star because this is still a place on the left that is willing to have discussion and debate, and I can't tell you how valuable that is. I was struck by what the Cuban ambassador said this morning. One of the things she said, Ismael Vargas-Llosa, when she was talking about the Cuban Revolution and the way that it's women are at its very centre and at its very lead. And she talks about revolutionary men ceding space. And I think that's a really important message that I really want people to take away today. And she then talks about how revolutionary women stepped into that space. And that is, I think, what we need to happen now. Kate has brilliantly, very patiently, very calmly made her case. I am afraid I'm going to be a little less patient. Women hold up half the sky. It's a pretty image, but it hides an ugly truth. We don't hold up half the sky. We hold up way more than half, and we have done that for centuries. And this labour has been ignored, undervalued, dismissed, and expected. I hope I don't have to rehearse here all the range of burdens and oppressions that women are subject to. Quite frankly, I'm sick of hearing them. They are trotted out year after year, and nothing changes. The hand-wringing that goes on around International Women's Day or on the 16 days to end violence against women is in sharp contrast to any concrete actions that are taken to address women's rights in the movement and elsewhere. In fact, the opposite happens. Women who try to organise for women's rights are often subject to conditional support, restrictive dogma, or outright hostility. Sadly, the labour movement, which should be the route to our liberation, is, too often, the source of outright misogyny and sexism. Which other oppressed group, is told how to determine their own boundaries?
Exactly.
Which other oppressed group has the terms of their self-organisation dictated to them by those who do not share the oppressions we face? Which other oppressed group is prevented from accessing the collective tools and resources of union organising unless we toe that line determined by others? Because this is how the left and the other progressive movements treat women who believe that sex is a material fact and the basis for the discrimination we face. Women are abused, harassed, threatened and traduced. We are blocked, we are ostracised, we are ejected from the movements we have helped to build. And for all the sympathising we get from the labour movement about this burden that women carry, very little changes unless women take on the fight ourselves. Repeatedly, we have looked to the movement for support, and sometimes, eventually, we get it, but only usually after a struggle, and that is adding already to the burden that we labour under. Too often, this movement lets us down. Too often, it is complicit in the oppression that we face, and I'm going to give you some examples. Repeated instances, persistent instances of sexual harassment and abuse and violence within unions. TSSA, GMB, the International Transport Workers Federation, to just name a few. The failure of unions to remove or address the obstacles, procedural and practical, that prevent women from taking up our rightful places in this movement. The exclusion of women with analysis deems to be transphobic, when in reality it is about addressing the material facts of women's lives. Too often, women's liberation is something the labour movement pretends to care about while doing the minimum to achieve it. It is worn like a cloak of glory on International Women's Day, when we hark back to the past struggles like the Match Women, or Burston, or Dagenham, or Grundwick, despite the fact that these battles were led by women in the face of hostility and apathy from the unions. And still we fail to address the perpetration of women's oppression in our own structures. How many men guilty of or complicit in sexual abuse and harassment do we still tolerate and push forward in this movement? Can unions really be taken seriously in their condemnation of sexual abuse and violence in society when we fail to address its prevalence in our own structures, in our own organisations? How can we call out the far right for sexual abuse and violence when we repeatedly fail to address it ourselves? And how many unions have actually engaged with the excellent TUC action plan, which has been put together to address this issue? It's a problem for the movement, and I think it's existential. I'm part of 2 groups trying to empower women and organise women to take their rightful place in the movement. The FiLiA Trade Union Women's Network is helping women to organise, to gain power and agency in their unions. We've got members all over the UK and in a wide range of unions, and we are connecting and supporting them with resources and tools. Many of them actually produced by unions. We produce amazing resources, but then they don't use them, or they don't push them out, or they don't implement them. I haven't done a speech for a while, I've forgotten about water, sorry. I'm also part of Organised Liberation Alliance, which is organising within the movement to ensure that solid analysis, solid socialist analysis and discussion takes place, and that women are supported to debate the questions that matter to them. This is work that unions should be supporting us to do, us women to do. But if the movement won't support us, we will do it ourselves. We will do it ourselves. We know that without this work, nothing is going to change. And we simply do not trust, we cannot trust anyone else to do it on our behalf. We will not franchise our own liberation. And here we come back full circle, because this is more labour on top of all the other work that we are already doing. More sky, if you like. And while we are holding up this sky, we are restricted in what we can change on the ground. We cannot be properly active in building a labour movement that successfully confronts and tears down the oppressions endured by all working people. Can it even call itself a movement for working people if women are not empowered by it? As Thomas Sankara said, there is no true social revolution without the liberation of women. At this point in time, the labour movement is not the answer to women's oppression, it is part of the problem. And women are not just in the labour movement, we are the labour movement. We make up the majority, but we do not have the majority share of power or resources or victories. Unfair as that is, we are used to organising with no time, no money and no inside track to power. We are used to organising at the grassroots, and we are getting used to winning. These are skills this movement needs now. The enemies we face are immense, and they cannot be beaten without us. A failure to harness the insights, the knowledge, the drive and the strength of women weakens this whole movement and contributes to the oppression that unions claim to oppose. So we are not walking away, we are throwing down a challenge. We want you to remember your roots. We want you to remember what unions are supposed to stand for. And if you can't or won't, then we will do what women have always done, and we will organise ourselves. Yes, it's more labour, but what choice do we have? And it comes with a warning. This sky that women are breaking our backs to hold up, when it falls on all of us.